time is right now. This is Carolina Coral in the studio. I welcome the viewers of Freedom. Let's get straight to the important news. The Russian army struck a resort in the Chernihiv region with 3 attack drones. According to local authorities, an elderly woman was injured. A fire broke out as a result of the strike, but rescuers quickly contained it. The Russian army also shelled frontline regions, particularly in the Donetsk region. The occupiers killed a resident of Koshchentinivka and wounded another person. In the Kharkiv region, the enemy used attack drones, specifically Garin 2 and FPV types. A resident of Kupiansk was injured. A woman from Kherson was killed the day before as a result of the city being shelled by Russian forces. The latest strikes by the Russian army hit the central district of the regional capital. Shells struck residential buildings, some of which were completely destroyed, while others had their windows blown out and roofs damaged. This was reported by the regional military administration. Rescue workers are on site, carrying out urgent repairs and dealing with the aftermath of the shelling. Already on the morning of October 28th, the Russian army shelled residential neighborhoods in Kherson again. This time, there were no casualties, but the homes of local residents were badly damaged. You can find more details about the aftermath of the attack in the report.
The Russian army attacked residential neighborhoods of the city at around 4:30 in the morning. The strike hit the central district of Kherson.
I went to the window. I wanted to grab my flashlight. It was lying there. I came over, no flashlight. I just walked over here. The window responded. I flinched. I closed my eyes.
No one was hurt.
No casualties. The roof is damaged. The windows here were blown out.
As a result of the strike, some houses were completely destroyed, and many had their windows and doors blown out.
And it's like I had a feeling. For 3 days now, I haven't changed into home clothes. I sleep like this. I'm scared. I'm already 84 years old. I was born during the war, and now this is what my old age looks like.
Residents of Kherson, together with utility workers, are working to eliminate the consequences of the Russian attack, boarding up windows with particle board and clearing away construction debris. Zania Osetinskia for Freedom TV channel.
The General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine recorded 218 combat clashes on the front line over the past day. Russian occupiers carried out 11 attacks each in the southern Slobozhensky and Slavyansk directions. The 3 hottest spots on the front yesterday were in 3 directions. In the Alexandrovsk direction, the Russian army attacked Ukrainian defenders 28 times, in the Konstantinovsk direction 32 times, and in the Pokrovsk direction the defense forces repelled 79 assaults. 1,060 Russian occupiers were eliminated on the front literally in the past day. Thus, according to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Russia's total combat losses since the start of the full-scale war have already exceeded 1,138,000 personnel. In addition, yesterday the defense forces destroyed 6 Russian tanks, 28 armored vehicles, and 8 artillery systems. 2 Russian multiple-launch rocket systems and 134 units of enemy automotive and special equipment were also destroyed. For the 7th time this month, Russian forces have attacked Ukraine's civilian gas infrastructure. This was stated by the chairman of the board of Naftogaz, Serhiy Koretsky. According to him, extraction facilities in the Poltava region were damaged by strikes. Specialists are working at the site of the strike. They are assessing the consequences and beginning to restore the facilities. This winter will be decisive. Ukraine must remain capable of defending itself. This was stated by German Foreign Minister Johann Wiedefel. He also called on allies to provide Kyiv with decisive support. Last week, the coalition of willing countries discussed the need to mobilize all resources so that Ukraine can withstand this winter. According to the minister, Germany bears a special responsibility, and Ukraine can always count on its support, Wiedefel emphasized. Ukrainian troops already have combat experience using the new Flamingo and Ruda missiles, and new strikes against enemy targets are expected soon. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy spoke about this during a meeting with journalists.
Flamingo, it has seen combat use. Ruta, it has seen combat use. We're doing everything so that this year we don't just try 1, 2, or 3, but really give it a serious try. We're moving toward this and believe we'll succeed. Volodymyr Zelenskyy, president of Ukraine, during a meeting with journalists.
Zelenskyy also noted that if Putin does not come to the negotiating table, new sanctions must be imposed. According to him, Kiev and Washington are considering the option of imposing tough restrictions on the Kremlin if Russia refuses to negotiate an end to the war. Volodymyr Zelenskyy emphasized that Donald Trump is showing the Kremlin a willingness to engage in dialogue, while keeping the option open to either tighten or ease restrictions depending on Russia's actions.
We've started this kind of dialogue with America. If Putin doesn't come to the negotiating table, we need sanctions. We also talked about long-range capabilities. It seems to me that President Trump is showing Putin that the window is open. Like, I've imposed sanctions, but you know what could happen next. After all, the topic of tomahawks has already come up. So, from here, it could either be negotiations or long-range weapons for Ukraine. Volodymyr Zelenskyy, President of Ukraine.
The Netherlands will hold a conference that is intended to be a step toward creating a special tribunal for crimes of Russian aggression against Ukraine. This was announced by Dutch Foreign Minister David Van Bijl at a press conference in Kiev. In addition, preparations are underway to launch an international commission to review claims from the Special Registry of Damages caused by Russia to Ukraine. According to Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha, the registry has already received more than 65,000 claims from victims. Russia is carrying out systematic drone attacks on civilian targets in Ukraine, as well as deporting the population from temporarily occupied territories. These are crimes against humanity and war crimes. This is stated in the report of the UN Independent International Commission of Inquiry on Ukraine. The commission found that Russian forces repeatedly attacked civilian targets, particularly along the right bank of the Dnipro River.
The collected evidence indicates that regular attacks by Russian armed forces using short-range drones against civilians in frontline areas have resulted in numerous deaths and injuries, widespread destruction, and have created conditions that force thousands of people to flee. The Commission concluded that these actions constitute crimes against humanity, murder, and the forcible displacement of the population. These attacks were directed against the civilian population, residential buildings, humanitarian aid distribution points, and critical energy infrastructure. Even rescuers were hit, including ambulances and fire brigades. Despite their special protection under international humanitarian law, many attacks were repeatedly carried out on the same targets. From the report of the UN Independent International Commission of Inquiry on Ukraine.
Bilateral relations between Russia and North Korea are proceeding according to plan. This was stated by the Kremlin dictator Putin during a meeting with North Korea's Foreign Minister Cho Son-hui. She arrived in Moscow for a visit. Let me remind you that last year, Putin and Kim Jong-un signed a strategic partnership agreement. It included provisions for mutual defense. North Korea, in particular, provided Russia with more than 10,000 troops, artillery shells, and missiles to support Russia's war against Ukraine. At the same time, according to estimates by South Korea's National Intelligence Service, about 2,000 North Korean soldiers have been killed in the war against Ukraine. Lukashenko called Lithuania's closure of the border with Belarus a crazy scheme. According to him, Vilnius supposedly wanted to disrupt the international conference on Eurasian security in Minsk and came up with, I quote, a petty excuse for it. Balloons, said Lukashenko. Let me remind you, the day before, Lithuania completely closed its border with Belarus due to incidents involving weather balloons in the country's airspace. In addition, Vilnius announced that the Lithuanian army will begin shooting down balloons that enter from the neighboring country. The agreement on rare earth metals and critical minerals was signed by U.S. President Donald Trump and Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi. The two countries plan to strengthen economic and political cooperation. The document is also intended to help both sides secure supplies of critical minerals, according to a statement from the White House. Like the U.S., Japan needs stable supplies, since China, the main producer of rare earth metals, is tightening export controls and putting global supplies at risk. At the same time, about 70% of Japan's rare earth metal imports come from China. Due to new U.S. sanctions, the Russian oil company Lukoil has announced its intention to sell its international assets. An official statement on the corporation's website says that the sale will be carried out under a license issued by the U.S. Department of the Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control. If necessary, Lukoil intends to apply for an extension of the license period. They have already begun considering offers from potential buyers. Indian refineries have suspended purchases of Russian oil following the new U.S. sanctions. Reuters reports this, citing anonymous sources. Refining companies are currently waiting for clarifications from the government and suppliers, while some already booked shipments linked to entities that have come under sanctions have been cancelled. According to the International Energy Agency, in the first 9 months of this year, India purchased nearly 2 million barrels of Russian oil per day. This accounts for 40% of Russia's total oil exports. At the same time, Bloomberg reports that India is already looking for workarounds to continue importing oil from Russia. According to journalists, Indian state-owned refineries still want to import crude oil at a discount, but now they are focusing not on major companies like Rosneft and Lukoil, for example, which have come under U.S. sanctions, but on smaller Russian firms. According to Bloomberg, Indian refiners are now trying to figure out how much oil they can buy from Russian companies that are not under sanctions, and at what price, as well as exploring ways to bypass sanctions and purchase some crude from Rosneft, but through other entities. To escape the role of being a perpetual colony of China, Russia has only one option left: to end the war and save its economy. This was stated by Andriy Kovalenko, head of the Center for Countering Disinformation at the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine. He noted that for the first time in 3 years, Russia's defense industry has stopped supporting the economy. In September, the production of tanks, armored vehicles, and metal products dropped by 6 to 20%. Rostat is concealing the scale, but even the official growth of Russia's GDP has come to a halt. Budget revenues have fallen by 21%, and the deficit is 5 times larger than planned.
Gazprom has shifted its losses onto the population. The Ministry of Finance is cutting expenditures, and new U.S. sanctions against Rosneft and Lukoil are closing the Indian market to Russia. The only buyer left is China. But already on October 30th in Busan, Trump and Xi will discuss Russia's future without Russia. If a country at war can't even sustain its military-industrial complex, that's not just a crisis, it's a financial collapse. To avoid becoming a permanent colony of China, Russia has only one option left: end the war and save the economy. Andriy Kovalenko, head of the Center for Countering Disinformation at the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine, on Telegram.
The new U.S. sanctions against Rosneft and Lukoil could cut Russia's oil exports by 50%. This would lead to a loss of up to $5 billion in revenue per month. Vladimir Zelenskyy said this in an interview with Axios. According to him, this White House decision should be followed by new secondary sanctions and parallel steps from Congress. The president of Ukraine also stated that Putin will not give in unless the U.S. increases the pressure. In this regard, Zelenskyy considers a meeting between Donald Trump and Chinese leader Xi Jinping important, where the head of the White House could persuade Beijing to reduce its purchases of Russian energy resources, following Delhi's example.
President Trump is planning a conversation with China on the 30th. I think this could be one of his strong moves, if after this decisive sanction step China is ready to reduce its imports. Why? Because we have information that India has definitely given all the signals that it will reduce its imports of energy resources from the Russian Federation. Volodymyr Zelenskyy, president of Ukraine, during a conversation with journalists.
Subscribe to The Gaze and stay updated on the most important events, top news from Ukraine and all over the world, in-depth analysis, exclusive reports and interviews, all on hand in our channel. Join our community of viewers and stay tuned.